Hi, welcome to this Cypress Workshop. My name is Jose and I'm currently studying my last year of computer engineering. I'm also doing my internship at Genially. I'm working in the quality assurance team. And yes, this workshop is going to be in English since today is Wednesday. And Wednesdays for us, the Free Software Club or Aula de Software Libre, means English because we interact with each other in English since this language is one of the most important skills to have nowadays. Let's start. Let's see what we're going to see today. We will start with introduction to testing. Then we're going to focus a little bit on end-to-end tests and Cypress itself, seeing its advantages and disadvantages, the folder structure it generates when we create a new project, and the most important component of this framework. Okay, so what is testing? Testing is a method to check whether the actual software product matches expected requirements and to ensure that software product is defect-free. So why is it that important? Let me give you a quick example. Imagine that you are developing a new feature for your software product. You have committed an error, but you don't know it. So if you don't test your code, you won't notice it until it fails in the environment you have deployed or whatsoever. So that's the main goal of testing, like detect the errors before you deploy your code or you make use of it. Alright, so once we have seen this, we are going to see the different types of tests. We can build unit tests, integration tests, or end-to-end tests. Unit tests are typically automated tests written and run by software developers to ensure it meets its design and behaves as intended. Then integration testing consists of group individual software modules and check whether it works or not. And then end-to-end tests. End-to-end test or end-to-end testing refers to a software testing method that involves testing an application's workflow from beginning to end. And here we can see the test pyramid, where it shows separation of the different types of testing in 4 different layers. At the bottom we can see unit, then integration, then end-to-end, and then exploratory testing, which is an approach to software testing that is concisely described as simultaneous learning, test design, and test execution. And now the main thing, Cypress. What is Cypress? Cypress is a JavaScript-based framework for end-to-end testing. It is built on top of Mocha and runs in the browser, enabling asynchronous testing. And why Cypress? Why that name? So the answer the Cypress development team gave is that they believe that tests should always pass. In other words, they should always be green. So a cypress is an evergreen tree. That's why. So Cypress, you can see here. Okay, now let's talk about Cypress advantages and disadvantages. Let's start with the advantages. For example, it is really well documented. You can see examples of lots of methods of its API. You can see here, like all the commands. Then if you want to get started with it, it's really easy because you don't really need to have knowledge at all about testing, about end-to-end testing. So documentation is a pro. Then Cypress automatically waits for you. Well, waits for commands and assertions, so that's why asynchronous testing is enabled. Then it provides support to multiple browsers like Electron, Chrome, Firefox, or Edge. it automatically scrolls to the element to make sure that it's in the view before performing any action. And one of the coolest things is that you can literally time travel through the test execution. What does this mean? That Cypress is taking snapshots of every command that it's being executed, so you can easily go back and go forward to wherever you want inside your test. And now let's see the disadvantages, because Cypress is a nice tool, but it's not perfect, especially when you are going to test iframes, because it's not supported by this framework. And at the end, you will probably end up using a plugin, like for example for Stripe payments. So in Stripe, when you're going to pay, like the field inputs are iframes, and there is a special plugin for Cypress and Stripe that eases this process. Then another trade-off of Cypress is that there will never be support for multiple browser tabs. What does this mean? Like for example, imagine that you are testing a page and there is a button that when you click on it, it opens a new tab. So when you click on it, Cypress is not gonna go to the new tab. It's gonna stay on the page where that button was. So there is a workaround to test that case, that is that you can check that element has an attribute, an href attribute with the desired value that you want it to redirect you. Then another one is another disadvantage is that each test is bounded to the same origin. So for example, if you're testing on localhost and in your product you have different applications and each application is on a different port, Cypress considers it as a different domain, so you cannot visit both of them. You just can visit one, and then if you have a flow to go to the other application, you just can do it through the user interface. And well, the last disadvantage is that you cannot use Cypress to drive two browsers at the same time. Okay, and now the Cypress folder structure. This folder structure is generated anytime we create a new Cypress project, and it comes with 4 different folders: fixtures, integration, plugins, and support. In the fixtures folder is where we're going to store our static data, the static data that we can use in all of our tests. Then in the integration folder is where all our tests are going to be. Then in the plugins folder, in the index.js, this is the plugins file, let's say, and it's special because it executes in Node before our project is loaded, also before the browser launches, and during the test execution. So this file is a good place to define how you want to bundle these spec files via the preprocessors. And the last one, the support folder, contains the index.js file, which is the support file. This file is executed, well, is run by Cypress every single time before each test. And it's a good place to save everything that we're going to reuse or that we are going to use more than once. For example, custom commands that we will see later in the text execution. And well, the last part of the presentation, well, before the test execution, the demonstration, is the test runner. That is, let's say, the most important component in this framework. It has different sections. So the first one is the command log, that, as its name says, is a log where all our commands are being shown. Then the test status menu, where we can see all the tests that have passed, all the tests that have failed, the time execution, and we can enable or disable auto scrolling. We can stop our test. Then we can also see the test that we have loaded. All right, the next one is the URL preview. It basically shows the location of our app it prints the URL. Then on the right side, the viewport sizing that we can configure in our Cypress JSON file. And then the last one, the main container, is the app preview, where we can see in real time what our application is doing. Alright, once we have seen all this stuff, let's do some demonstration of Cypress and run some tests. Okay, so before building our first test, I want to show you the Cypress JSON file because it's the main configuration of Cypress. So here, basically, we are saying that our base URL, the URL of our project in Cypress, is going to be localhost 3000 in that port. So all our tests will start from there. Then we're also saying that the test folder is going to be this one, Cypress test demo, the size of our viewport, and how many times we want our test to be retried. So if we open Cypress in run mode, 2 times. If we open Cypress in open mode, once. What is this of opening Cypress in run mode or open mode? So if we go to our package.json in the folder root, we can see this command, Cypress open and Cypress run. Well, these scripts, sorry. So open is it will open Cypress with its interface, and we will see the test runner and the Cypress interface. If we execute Cypress run, it will open Cypress in headless mode, which means without user interface. Okay, so let's see our first test in Cypress. If we go to the browser, localhost 3000, this is our app. Okay, we have a sign in page and a sign up page. And what we're going to do in this demo is sign up and sign in with random users and loading them from a fixture. But the first step is just sign up and sign in. Okay, so let's go to our spec file, and this is for sign up. So the first thing that we do is creating a random user using Faker, the Faker library. We generate this first name, last name, password, and the username. And now our test starts. We have grouped it in a describe block, and our test is this one, that it should sign up successfully. The first thing we do is visiting the sign up page. So as our base URL is localhost 3000, we don't need to put it. It just appends sign up to our base URL. So we visit it, and we assert that our URL should include sign up. And then we are starting to use Cypress commands. Well, we have been using Cypress commands, to be fair, but we're going to start to perform actions over elements. So as you can see here, first we're going to get elements, and we get elements by its ID. So if we check in the DOM, we can see that every element has a data test attribute. This is a really good practice to identify elements, because another way that we have to identify elements is by its element ID, which could be changed in the future, or by CSS selectors. That's the worst practice that you could do, because they might vary in any moment. And the ID is a bit better than the CSS selector, but with data test or data CY, we're specifying that that ID is just for testing. So if you agree it with your development team, like, it won't change in the future. So that's the best way to identify an element. Well, so once we get the element, so this is the sign up page, all right? So we have a form with different input fields. We have the first name, the last name, the username, the password, the confirm password, and the button to submit the form. So we're going to type the attributes of a random user: first name, last name, username, password, and the password again, because it's the confirm password input. All, well, each of them in its corresponding field, input field. Okay, and then once we click the sign up button, we are going to assert that we are going to be in the sign in URL. Okay, so let's execute it. Okay, so here we can see the different tests that we have loaded, and we want to execute the sign up spec, that it will simulate the sign up process. Okay, for example, if you remember that before we were talking about advantages, this is the time traveling advantage of Cypress, that is taking snapshots of all the action that has performed. So I can see, for example, in this element, in the sign up last name, that it has typed Hackett, or in the username it has typed that username. All right, now well, let's see the sign-in spec, because it has a different thing with respect to the sign up. Is that well, before anything, when we build a test, we have to build it from the initial state. So if we want to log in with a user, unless the user is logged in advance, we need to register it. So there is this hook before that we can specify. Well, this hook mainly what it does is that before everything is before the test has started, executes what is inside of it. So here what we're doing is executing the sign up process, and once it's done, it will run the following test case that it should sign in successfully. It's pretty much filling the sign in input fields, and it will click on the sign in submit button. and once you click it, you will be at the at this location, at this URL. So let's execute it, and we will see how it works. And here we can see that before performing the sign-in test, it has executed the sign-up process. Okay. And well, now the last step, step 2, and the last one. What we have done here is a refactor of the tests, because it does the same thing, but in just one line. So what are we doing here? In the support file, well, in the support folder, in commands, well, demo commands, sorry, we have created these custom commands. One for get element by data test, for sign up or sign in. Okay, in sign up, what we're passing through this custom command is this object, which is a random user with the username field or variable, and it takes it and it just does the sign up process. And then with the sign in, the same, we pass it the username and the password, they are both strings, and it executes the sign in process. Things that we have to consider. Okay, so if we create a new file in our support commands, in our support folder, sorry, the support file is the index.ts, so we have to import it here. And then, since this is TypeScript, in JavaScript we don't have these quotes issues, is that we have to declare it in the global DTS, and after that we can use it in our test. Okay, so in the sign up test, that's it. But in the sign-in spec, we have loaded data from a fixture through the fixture Cypress command. We're basically saying that it has to load this fixture, that is user, that is the name of the JSON file that is containing fixtures. And here we have defined it like a user. It has a first name, a last name, a username, and password with these values: test, your code, Aula Software Libre, and secret. Okay, so before all, load this fixture, store user, because we have to use it later, store the value of that fixture in user, and sign up with that user. Well, actually we could say this and it will work. And well, then execute the sign-in process. If we run it, it will work. Well, And well, that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this workshop. And if you have any doubt, you can slide on my DMs. Don't hesitate. And well, goodbye.